Our mom is
Don't be
still on the
afraid.
ship, the
We mean you
children
no
whispered.
harm.
But the
We can get
guard
you out of
dog
here.
wouldn't let them pass HFY. The dock was loud with metal steps, warning lights, and voices that did not sound calm anymore. The human transport ship stood still, its dark body locked to the station like a tired animal that refused to move. Smoke marks ran along its side where earlier damage had been sealed in a hurry. Everyone who could walk had already left it. At least that was what the officials said. Two children stood at the edge of the docking line, holding each other's sleeves so tight their hands shook. The older one, a thin boy named Eli, tried to stand tall even though his legs felt weak. The younger one, Mara, hid half her face behind his arm. Their eyes stayed fixed on the ship. A large guard dog blocked the path ahead. He was bigger than any normal animal, his body thick with muscle and metal supports under short gray fur. His eyes glowed a steady blue. A badge on his harness marked him as station security. He had one job and everyone knew it. No one goes back. The children whispered, afraid to speak loud in front of the guards and the watching aliens. Their voices were so soft they almost disappeared into the noise of the dock. "Our mama's still on the ship," Eli said. The dog did not move. He sat straight, tail flat on the floor, eyes forward. His name was Brim. He had been trained from birth to obey orders without question. An alien officer stood nearby, tall and thin, with pale skin that reflected the red warning lights. Its eyes were dark and unreadable. It watched the scene with clear boredom. "The evacuation is complete," the officer said in a sharp voice. "No exceptions." Eli swallowed. "Sir, please, she works in engineering. She said she had to fix something before leaving." Mara nodded fast. "She promised she would come." One of the human guards shifted his weight. He looked at the children, then at the dog, then away. He did not speak. Brim's ears twitched. A soft sound came from deep in his chest, not a growl, not a bark, just a low hum. His eyes flicked just for a moment toward the ship. Inside the dawn path, the lights were low. Power was being pulled away from non-essential systems to prepare for detachment. Deep in the ship, behind thick sealed walls, a woman sat on the floor of an engineering chamber. Her name was Lion. Her hands were burned, her breath slow and painful, but her eyes were still open. She checked the screen one more time. The numbers were stable now. The reactor would not fail. She had done what she stayed behind to do. "I'm coming," she whispered, though no one could hear her. Back on the dock, the alien officer tapped a control pad. "Release clamps, prepare to clear the area." The ground vibrated as systems came alive. Mara's grip tightened. "Eli, the ship's going to leave." Eli stepped forward. "Please," he said again, louder this time. Brim rose to his feet. Every nearby guard stiffened. The dog was not meant to stand unless commanded. The alien officer's eyes narrowed. "Control your animal," it snapped. The human guard reached for his override device, his hand shaking just a little. Brim took one step forward. Then another. He placed himself fully between the children and the path away from the ship. His body blocked the line. Images moved through Brim's mind, not as words, but as feelings and memory patterns. A calm voice giving him water, gentle hands adjusting his harness. A tired laugh late at night, the same scent carried by the children now standing behind him. His training told him one thing, something deeper told him another. The alien officer raised its weapon. "Step aside." Brim did not. A warning alarm sounded from the ship, not evacuation. Something else. A human technician shouted, "Life sign ping just came up, weak but real." The dock fell quiet. The alien officer turned slowly. "Explain." The technician swallowed. "There's someone still inside," Mara gasped. "That's her." Brim's tail lifted slightly. The alien officer's mouth tightened. "Irrelevant. The risk window has closed." Eli's voice broke. "You said everyone was out." Brim looked back at the children just for a second. His eyes dimmed and brightened again. Then he moved. With a sudden burst of strength, Brim slammed his paw onto the emergency access panel beside the dock gate. The metal dented under the impact. Lights flashed. Alarms screamed. The human guards shouted. The alien officer yelled orders. Weapons rose. The dock gate began to open. Somewhere deep inside the ship, Lion heard the sound and lifted her head. Someone was coming, and the rules no longer mattered. The alarms did not stop. They echoed through the dock and inside the ship, sharp and angry, cutting through every other sound. Red lights washed over faces filled with fear and confusion. The dock gate stood half open, frozen by the emergency lock Brim had triggered. Human guards ran back and forth, shouting orders that no one followed clearly. The alien officer barked commands into its communicator, its long fingers tight around the weapon. "Seal it," the officer said. "Now." The controls did not respond. Brim stood firm in front of the opening. His body blocked the narrow path leading back into the ship. Smoke drifted out from the gap, warm air carrying the smell of burned metal and coolant. Eli stared at the opening, heart pounding. "Brim, did you hear them? She's in there." Mara crouched beside him, eyes wide, afraid but hopeful for the first time since the sirens began. The human guard with the override device stepped closer to Brim. "Easy, big guy," he said softly. "I know something's wrong, but I have orders." Brim did not look at him. His ears stayed pointed toward the ship. Inside Brim's mind, memories flowed faster now, not commands. Not training drills, moments. A woman kneeling beside him when he was still small, adjusting his harness with careful hands. Her voice calm even when alarms rang. Her smell mixed with oil and metal. She had called him a good boy, not as a command, but as thanks. He remembered standing watch while she worked long hours, the children sometimes asleep nearby. He remembered how her heartbeat slowed when he lay close. This was not an unknown human. This was family. The alien officer stepped forward, lifting its weapon higher. "Remove the animal or I will." Before anyone could react, Brim growled. It was low and deep, vibrating through the metal floor. Everyone froze. The guards had never heard that sound from him before. The officer hesitated. At that moment, a new alarm tone joined the others. A calmer voice followed, coming from the station system. "Internal report," the voice said. "Engineering Chamber 7 shows manual reactor override completed. One life sign detected. Condition critical." Eli felt his knees weaken. "That's her. That has to be her." The alien officer's face tightened. "Critical condition confirms my point. Recovery is inefficient." The human guard snapped back. "She saved the ship." The officer turned slowly. "The ship is irrelevant." Brim moved again. He stepped through the open gate and into the ship. Weapons raised instantly. Shouts followed him, but he did not stop. His metal-reinforced paws hit the deck with heavy thuds. The air inside was darker, hotter. Emergency lights cast long shadows along the corridor. The human guard cursed and ran after him. 2 more followed. They knew what it meant to cross that line, but they went anyway. Eli tried to run after them. Strong hands caught him and Mara, pulling them back. "Stay here," someone said. "Please." The children watched as the figures disappeared into the smoke. Inside the dawn path, Brim moved with purpose. He followed scent trails no sensor could read clearly. The path to engineering was blocked in places by fallen panels and leaking pipes. He climbed, pushed, and squeezed through gaps without slowing. Behind him, the guards struggled to keep up. Radiation warnings flashed across the walls. In the engineering section, Lion tried to stand. Her legs failed her. She pressed her back against the wall, breathing shallowly. The air burned her lungs. She laughed weakly. "Guess I cut it close," she murmured. A shadow moved beyond the sealed door. Her eyes widened. "Brim!" The door shook as something heavy struck it. Once, twice. Metal bent inward, sparks flew. Brim hit it again. Pain surged through his damaged joints, but he did not stop. The lock gave way with a sharp crack. The door fell inward. Lion's vision blurred as she saw him. "Good boy," she whispered. Brim rushed to her side, whining softly now. He nudged her face with his nose, checking her breath, her pulse. His internal systems flagged her as unstable. The guards arrived seconds later. "We've got her," one said into his communicator. "She's alive." "Move," the other urged. "The core is heating again." Brim crouched low as they lifted Lion onto a stretcher. His sensors spiked. Radiation levels were rising faster than expected. Outside, the alien officer received the report. Its jaw tightened. "Return immediately," it ordered. "If the animal fails to comply, neutralize it." The human guard heard the message. He looked at Brim. Brim looked back. He stepped deeper into the chamber instead of turning around. "What are you doing?" the guard shouted. Brim reached the control panel. The readings were climbing. The manual override was failing. Lion coughed. "If it spikes again, it will blow." The guard stared. "We can't fix it fast enough." Brim placed his paws on the panel. His systems connected, feeding power where it was failing. The surge burned through his circuits. Warning lights flared inside him. He held the line. The reactor stabilized. Brim's legs buckled. He collapsed beside the panel. "Brim," the guard whispered. Alarms shifted tone again. This time they slowed. Outside on the dock, the station shook as energy levels dropped across the grid. A massive explosion that would have destroyed both station and fleet never came. Silence followed. The alien officer stared at the readings in disbelief. The human guard carried Lion out. Brim dragged carefully behind them. Eli and Mara broke free and ran forward. "Mama," they cried. She reached out with shaking hands, tears streaking down her face. Behind them, Brim lay still, smoke rising from his body. The alien officer stepped closer, weapon lowered. For the first time it did not speak, because the humans had just saved everyone, and the cost was lying on the floor. The dock felt different after the alarm slowed. The noise faded into a low hum, like the station itself was holding its breath. Smoke drifted near the ceiling, and emergency lights blinked between red and white as systems struggled to return to normal. Brim lay on the cold metal floor. His chest rose once, then stopped. Burn marks crawled along his side where power had surged through him. Thin trails of smoke leaked from the vents in his armor. Eli stood frozen, staring at Brim's still form. Mara clutched her mother's sleeve, crying quietly into the fabric of her suit. Lion sat on the stretcher, barely strong enough to stay upright, her eyes locked on the dog. "No," she whispered, "please." A human medic knelt beside Brim and placed 2 fingers against the thick fur near his neck. He shook his head slowly. Lion tried to stand. Pain ripped through her body, but she forced herself forward. "He saved us," she said, her voice breaking. "He saved all of you." The alien officer watched in silence. Around it, alien soldiers shifted uneasily. They were trained to see animals as tools, not as beings worth pause. A new signal flashed across the station monitors. External scanners lit up. A fleet had arrived. The alien officer turned sharply toward the display. Its skin paled further as it read the data. The incoming ships were not friendly patrol units. They belonged to a rival power that had been tracking the station's weakened state. "Combat formation," the officer ordered. Human guards looked at one another. Weapons were raised again, this time toward space. The station trembled as the first distant impact struck the shield. Inside the chaos, a soft mechanical sound came from Brim. It was faint, almost missed, a quiet click, then another. The medic froze. "Wait." Brim's eyes flickered. Blue light pulsed weakly. Lion gasped. "Brim." The medic leaned closer. "Emergency core still active. He's not gone." Hope spread fast, fragile but real. Before anyone could react further, the station shook harder. The shield flared bright, then dimmed. The rival fleet was stronger than expected. The alien officer received frantic updates. "Shields at 40%, a voice reported. "Weapons grid damaged." The officer turned toward the humans. "Your ship's reactor stabilization saved this station," it said stiffly. "But it will not save us now." Lion lifted her head. The Dawnpath's core can still boost the shields, she said, but someone has to reroute it manually. The officer's eyes narrowed. You are injured. Lion looked down at Brim. So is he. Brim's tail twitched weakly. Eli stepped forward. You can't leave him. Mara nodded. He won't leave us. The station rocked again. A loud crack echoed as part of the outer hull buckled. The alien officer hesitated. Humans watched closely. They had seen this look before. Calculation fighting something unfamiliar. Finally, the officer spoke. Explain your plan. Lion took a breath. We connect Brim directly to the Dawnpath's power line again, not to hold it this time, to redirect it. The medic shook his head. That could kill him. Lion's voice hardened. He already chose. Brim's eyes brightened slightly as if he understood. The alien officer stared at the dog. This makes no sense. Lion met its gaze. Humans don't measure worth by efficiency. Another impact hit. The shield percentage dropped further. The officer made its decision. Do it. They moved fast. Brim was placed on a mobile platform and rushed back toward the Dawnpath's docking interface. Lion, supported by guards, followed despite her injuries. Inside the control junction, cables were exposed, sparking. The power feed from the Dawnpath pulsed unstable energy. Brim was connected. His system screamed warnings. Pain flooded his circuits, but he held steady. His internal processors adjusted, learning, adapting. Outside, the station shields flared brighter. The rival fleet hesitated. Human and alien crews worked side by side now, moving with shared purpose. Eli and Mara watched from behind the barrier, hands clasped together. Come on, Eli whispered. The station fired back. One enemy ship broke apart. Cheers erupted, short and sharp, cut off by another violent hit. Brim's power reading spiked dangerously. Lion cried out, pull him back now. The final enemy ship turned away, retreating. The threat was over. The shields held. The power was cut. Brim collapsed again. This time the silence felt heavier. Medics rushed in. Minutes passed like hours. Then Brim's eyes opened fully, glowing steady blue once more. Mara laughed through tears. The alien officer watched, stunned. A being built as a tool had chosen sacrifice twice. The officer lowered its head slightly. Across the station, a quiet understanding spread. Humans did not abandon their own, not even when the cost was everything. The station did not cheer after the battle ended. There was no loud victory cry, no raised arms. Only tired breaths and slow movement filled the dock. People leaned against walls or sat on the floor, trying to understand how close everything had come to ending. Brim lay on a padded platform near the docking bay. Thick cables had been removed from his body, leaving dark marks along his side. His breathing was steady but weak. Every small rise of his chest felt like a gift. Lion sat nearby, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Medics moved around her, checking her burns and speaking softly, but she barely heard them. Her eyes never left Brim. Eli and Mara sat on the floor beside her. Mara held one of Brim's large paws with both hands, afraid to let go. He's warm, she said quietly. That means he's still here. Eli nodded, though his throat felt tight. Across the dock, the alien officer stood alone. The battle had forced it to see humans not as weak allies, but as something unpredictable, dangerous in a way no weapon could be. A communication request appeared on its wrist device. High command. The officer accepted the call. A large alien face filled the screen. Report, the voice demanded. The station was attacked, the officer said. The human ship prevented reactor collapse. The station and fleet survived because of human intervention. There was a pause. Losses, minimal, the officer replied. Against expectations. Another pause, longer this time. Explain the animal. The officer looked toward Brim. The guard unit disobeyed direct orders. Twice. Then it should be destroyed. The officer's jaw tightened. If it had obeyed, the station would not exist. Silence followed. Finally, the command voice spoke again. Your recommendation, the officer hesitated, then said observation, not termination. The screen went dark, the officer exhaled slowly. Nearby, a human guard approached. They're letting Brim live, aren't they? The officer met his eyes. Yes, the guard nodded once. Good. Hours passed. Systems stabilized. Fires were sealed. Damaged sections were locked down. The Dawn Path remained attached to the station, no longer treated as disposable cargo. Brim's eyes opened again. Mara noticed first. "Mama," she whispered urgently. Lion leaned forward. "Brim?" His tail moved, slow but clear. Tears ran freely down Lion's face. "You stubborn thing," she said softly. Brim made a low sound, almost like a sigh. A medic smiled. "He'll need repairs, a lot of them, but he'll recover." Eli let out a breath he felt like he had been holding forever. Later, the doc gathered for a formal address. Humans and aliens stood together in uneven lines. The station commander appeared on the main display. "Today," the commander said, "protocol failed." The alien officer stiffened. "And compassion succeeded," the commander continued. "A human engineer, a security unit, and 2 children changed the outcome of this station's fate." Murmurs spread through the crowd. "The Dawn Path will not be seized," the commander announced. "It will be repaired and returned to human control." Lion closed her eyes in relief. "And the guard unit known as Brim will be officially recognized for service beyond design." The alien officer felt something unfamiliar settle in its chest. Brim was lifted carefully as a small emblem was attached to his harness. Not a rank, not a command marker. A symbol of choice. The crowd watched in silence. Later, as the station lights dimmed to night cycle, Lion sat beside Brim once more. Eli and Mara slept against her sides, exhaustion finally winning. She rested her hand on Brim's head. "You saved us," she whispered. "All of us." Brim's eyes reflected the soft lights of the dock. Somewhere deep in his core, systems rewrote themselves, not by code but by memory. Across the station, aliens reviewed new reports. Human behavior was flagged again and again. Unpredictable, emotion-driven, dangerously loyal. And effective. One alien analyst paused over a single line. "Humans do not leave family behind." The analyst saved the note. It would matter later. The Dawn Path was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet than before. Not the silence of abandonment or fear, but the calm that followed survival. Repair lights moved slowly along its hull, like careful hands stitching old wounds. Brim sat near the open docking gate, his body supported by new plating and fresh wiring. His movements were slower now, but his eyes were clear and alert. The emblem on his harness caught the light each time he shifted. Eli and Mara stood beside him, watching workers move in and out of the ship. "She's really going to fly again," Mara said. Eli nodded. "Mama says stronger than before." Lion approached them, her step still careful but steady. The burns on her hands were wrapped, but she smiled easily now. "You two ready?" she asked. "For what?" Eli asked. "For going home." The word felt strange after everything that had happened. Home had almost been lost, burned away by orders and cold decisions. Now it felt earned. Across the dock, the alien officer watched the family and the guard dog. It had read reports, studied human history, reviewed countless recordings. None of it explained what it had seen with its own eyes. The officer approached. Lion tensed slightly, then relaxed as the officer stopped at a respectful distance. "The station council has updated protocol," the officer said. "In emergency evacuations, manual confirmation will now be required before declaring completion." Lion blinked. "Because of us." "Because of humans," the officer replied. It looked at Brim. "And because of him." Brim lifted his head, ears turning forward. The officer hesitated, then added, "Your species assigns value where none is expected." Lion smiled faintly. "That value is why we're still here." The officer inclined its head slightly, an unfamiliar gesture it had learned recently. Later, as the dawn path prepared for departure, humans gathered along the dock to watch. Even some aliens paused in their work, curious despite themselves. Brim took his position at the boarding ramp, sitting tall despite the damage he still carried. His duty remained the same, but the meaning had changed. Eli knelt beside him. "You know," he said quietly, "they call you a hero now." Brim's tail thumped once. Mara hugged his neck. "You're our hero." The ship's engines powered up, a deep, steady sound that echoed through the station. The clamps released one by one. Lion looked out across the dock, remembering the fear, the shouting, the moment she thought she would never see her children again. She reached down and rested her hand on Brim's head. "We don't leave family behind," she said. Brim looked up at her, then toward the stars beyond the open bay. As the dawn path pulled away, the station logs recorded the event in simple terms: evacuation delay, unexpected resistance, successful outcome. But among the crews, the story spread differently. They spoke of children who refused to stop whispering the truth, of a mother who stayed behind to save lives she would never meet, of a guard dog who chose love over orders. Across distant systems, alien analysts reviewed the data again and again. Human behavior was added to threat assessments and alliance models. One final note appeared in the shared archive: humans will break any rule to save one of their own, not because they are reckless, but because they remember who they are. On the dawn path, Eli and Mara watched the stars stretch into lines as the ship entered jump. Mara yawned. "Mama, yes. Will Brim always stay with us?" Lion smiled and looked at the dog lying nearby, already alert even while resting. "As long as we need him," she said. Brim's tail moved softly. Out in the dark between worlds, a simple truth traveled faster than any ship. Humanity survives not by strength alone, but by refusing to let go.